Hey, so I want to talk a little bit about being in a situation that you know you are complete with, being in a situation that you know is not healthy for you, being in a situation that you know needs to change on some level, in some capacity, and not quite knowing what to do about it yet. In the last video, I know I mentioned at one point how we like to make these huge swings. We like to take big, immediate action, external action for the way that we feel in a moment, for, the internal experience of things. And I was talking a little bit about your body's wisdom and trying to tune in and listen and observe, et cetera, et cetera. So all those things, yes. And this information is really more about permission today. This information is really more about just saying out loud that actually it is quite normal and totally okay to be aware of a situation that's going on that is problematic in some form or fashion for you, but not jumping to react, not freaking out about it and making a move in a real egregious way without the inner thought and the introspection. And I think that that's an important thing right now, especially because we live in a world of such reactionary cancel culture. We live in a world of such knee-jerk, pop off, run your mouth, immediate things. Because we have free will and we can do whatever we want, great, do that. Totally allowed to do that. And part of what comes with free will is the experience of the return action or the experience of what comes next. I don't want to say, the consequence from your actions, because consequence definitely holds a particular connotation of negativity of some kind. And so, in an effort to be a little bit more gentle with that, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So we run our mouths, we pop off. Well, guess what? Then people are going to have something to say about that, or we might hurt somebody's feelings, or we might speak out of turn or inaccurately, et cetera, et cetera. So, the notion of sitting with something, the notion of being patient, to allow your body to go through its process before you deliver a directive or an output of some kind, is an extremely undervalued experience and skill set. It's extremely undervalued. And as I said, this particular video is intended to really give you permission to not only do that, but to be okay doing that, and to actually just give your brain the concept that it can be done. We know what we know. We believe what we believe. We've all got conditioning and narrative and patterning, et cetera, et cetera. And when we know better, we tend to do better. So when I say to you, hey, just so you know, you can be fully invested in something or fully involved in a situation and know that it needs to change and be consciously choosing to hang out a little bit and wait and see what wants to come forward. Like, that's okay. Because one of the narratives and a big piece of rhetoric that definitely exists in the self-actualization industry and the self-help, just in this, is that there's a way to behave. That's really not even just this industry, that's everything. There's a way to behave. You're supposed to handle things like this. And I really call bullshit on that. I really, really do. I call bullshit on that because when we exist in a world of you're supposed to behave this way, we immediately denounce our own inner wisdom. We do. And that perpetuates and sets up an extremely unfortunate existence. It really causes us a lot of pain. It causes us a lot of angst when we feel as if we are always supposed to behave a certain way. We're supposed to handle trauma a certain way. We're supposed to respond to this person a certain way. We're supposed to feel some type of way. It is the most insidious mind fuck of a situation when something occurs to you or something happens in your life, and maybe you don't really feel any type of way about it. Maybe it doesn't affect you the way society tells you it should affect you. Because then what happens in that scenario is you're like, oh shit, well, is there something wrong with me that I'm like not upset about that? I'm supposed to be upset about that. My girlfriend's told me that if he ever treats me like that, I need to, Maybe that's true for you, maybe it's not. The reason that we respond to the things that we respond to, or the ways in which we respond to them, are all based on our personal experiences. Every day of the week, we talk about how, something is extremely weighty and impactful for one person, while that same thing is not. When it comes to emotional experiences, when it comes to inner work and healing and traumas and all of this stuff, that, the industry that I swim around in, and the reason that y'all are here listening and wanting to connect, when it comes to that stuff, there is an equal amount of narrative and rhetoric that there's a right way to heal. There's a specific way you're supposed to feel. And it's not that the general consensus is incorrect. It's not as if I'm attempting to say, deny what people are saying, because there is actual validity to, we are so disconnected because we've been so traumatized or we've been so harmed that we actually are not aware of what's happening when it's happening. That is absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And there's also a part of that spectrum that consists of, what if the conditioning is that there's still more conditioning, right? Like, we live in a world of arrogance, for sure, which is why we need to slow down and pause and introspect and check in with our body about things, to kind of gain some humility around things. And it is equally as problematic when we attempt to flex false humility, when we attempt to act as if, oh, there's still something wrong with me. Oh, I'm still working on my shadows. Oh, this, oh, that. Sometimes you're just a no to things. Sometimes it just doesn't affect you the way someone else thinks it should affect you. Sometimes you're good with how you chose to act, behave, or move. And that's okay. That's allowed. And so in this context of being in a situation, knowing that it needs to change, knowing that there are things you don't like, but being unsure of how to move from that as of yet, so you consciously choose to sort of stay in it. You consciously choose to stay in the relationship or stay at the job, or I don't know. I mean, those are the first things that come to mind. You consciously choose to not set a boundary or not speak your truth yet, because you don't quite have a grasp on what you want to do next. I just want you to know that that's okay. I just want you to know that that's okay, because for me, the important component of that space is that you are conscious of what you're doing. And as far as I know, it's when we behave unconsciously that we get ourselves into trouble. It's when we behave unconsciously that we miss the gifts and the wisdom that is available to us. So a conscious check-in, a conscious engagement is the end game here. It really, really is. I was talking with a client today, and we were talking about what, just what she had going on in her life. And I asked her, I said, so is that happening because you're like distracting yourself and you're avoiding, or is that happening because you're trying to channel this energy into something else? And it gave her pause, and she thought about it, and she's like, no, she's like, I know what you mean. And she's like, I definitely do. And that's why I asked her the questions, because it's a typical pattern of hers, a typical behavior for her to like distract and avoid. But as I said a moment ago, that's not always the case. So, her response was, no, I'm like channeling this energy. I'm like, I want to put all of this that I'm feeling, all this like amped up, anxious stuff. You guys like my shirt? Like my Biggie shirt? She's trying to channel all that amped up, anxious stuff into something, which is a beautiful thing, because it's about moving the energy through us. And as a quick side note, I mean, in a lot of ways, that's what anxiety is a sensory overload, because the container that is our body cannot hold everything that's happening anymore. It needs to move things through. We got to move things through. So we got to scream, we got to cry, we got to ground, we got to work out, we got to have sex, we got to do something to like move that energy through us. Please hear me when I say this is not a deniance of anxiety being a difficult thing or being a thing that you have to deal with. That's not what I'm speaking about. I'm speaking purely from an energetic, sensory place. Our body's trying to regulate itself. So channeling that energy into something can be one of many practices that are really helpful to manage your anxiety, should that be something you struggle with. So we had that little conversation with her. And what I went on to say to her, and I'm going to say to you as well right now, is that even if you were avoiding and distracting, if you consciously knew what you were doing and chose to do it anyways, for me, there's still some medicine in that. There's still some, I'm still okay with that. I'm still okay with that. Because it's a conscious choice. Because for something to be a conscious choice, that means you have a self-awareness. It means you understand kind of the larger impact of what you're about to engage with. And with self-awareness and with understanding of a larger impact, what also comes with that is the acknowledgement of ownership. Well, I'm opting into that. I'm conscious of the fact that I'm opting into that. I'm conscious of the fact that I'm going to distract and avoid right now because I just don't want to deal with it, or I don't feel like it, or I'm not ready yet, or whatever. But I'm doing it out of my own volition. I'm doing it out of my own introspection and my own decision making. And my experience with that type of dynamic is that it changes the energetic alchemy of whatever it is I'm doing. It changes the energetic alchemy of who I am and how I feel about myself. It changes and makes me more open and available to how I receive that equal and opposite reaction after the fact, after the choice that I've made. And that's a wonderful thing, because self-accountability, accountability to self, is what's up. That is a thing, that is a behavior that I believe we are truly lacking in this culture, in America, in a lot of ways. And that ultimately speaks to what I began this video about, which is just the automatic output without sitting with something, without taking the time and effort and energy to invest in the internal experience to get clear on those things before you make your move out there. There's value in that. There's a hell of a lot of value in that. And I want you to know that it's okay for you to continue on down a path while in a state of observation. That really is a lot of what I am the art, the artist, and the observer. Follow the artist, this channel that you're on. I am the art, I am the artist, and I am the observer, and I'm opting all the way in. When we opt all the way in on ourselves as the art, as the artist and as the observer, sometimes that's what it looks like. Sometimes it looks like, I don't know where this is taking me. I'm feeling a little bit nervous, but I'm gonna keep going because I also feel like there's something here for me. What's great about being in that place of agency and ownership of your experiences and how you move, what's great about being in that place is that while you're continuing down this path that may be a little bit suspect, you also will have enough awareness to, have the checks and balances in your life, to have the supports, to have the conversations, to have the humility to say, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, I'm not sure. There's a lot that comes with that. And all of those components really end up feeding you as a being, feeding your experiences as a human on this planet in this lifetime. And my experience with that is it's fucking beautiful. It makes my life full. It makes my life rich because I'm filling myself up. I'm filling myself up with my own wisdom, my own trust, my own faith in myself. And that's really such an important detail of this part of the journey, is that it builds a resiliency and a trust in self. The point of this life is not to do everything right and to not get canceled by the royal them out there. The point of this life is to experience it and to learn how to listen to and trust your own inner voice, to learn how to respond differently, respond accordingly. That's a value that really matters to me. It's a value that really, really matters to me. The accountability of self, in the experience of conscious engagement, and then bringing yourself around the corner or up and out when the time is right, because all of those things center back into an inner knowing, a strengthened inner voice, and a confidence. And when we own that space for ourselves, then we also allow others to own that space for themselves. And so it's a shared experience of personal autonomy. It's a shared experience of compassion, because it's like, damn, I've been there. I know how that goes, We do ourselves and each other such a disservice when we're like, it should be like this, it should be like that, you got it. And it's like, listen, we cannot force ourselves to be somewhere that we are not yet, lest we repeat it down the road again. Because we didn't complete the cycle, we didn't complete the thread, we didn't work it all the way through. So there's value in working things all the way through. And I invite you to do so, whatever that looks like for you. If you have questions, let me know. If you want more about any of these subjects, any little detail of anything, drop a question in there. I will respond, I will answer, I will do a new video. You let me know what you need. I am here for you. I love you. I got time for you. Mwah.